they were looking through my heart and doing all the monitoring, and they couldn't find anything wrong. And they were like, well, we don't know what's wrong. Your brain's telling your heart to stop. We don't know why it's doing that. Best option is a pacemaker. And I'm like, hell yeah, So I put a pacemaker in, and that took care of the heart stopping thing. So there's a so, but I was still having these episodes, and they were happening again about once every month or two or so. So then I started seeing multiple doctors about this, most notably a neurologist. So, and this is one that really kind of threw it in a tailspin, is the neurologist didn't catch the epilepsy. And I took that to heart. I feel like this neurologist should know. And he said, no, it's not epilepsy. So then I went down a path, and this was like 2006 when the neurologist said it's not. And I went down a path of looking at anything it could be, and false hopes for it to be something. And a big change occurred really in 2011, 2012. So I'd been looking for about 5 years or so to try to figure out what this is. And I get some new doctors, pet whatever. They just say, oh yeah, you have this. And so we try something, and it turned out it wasn't that. But into 2011 and 12, I started having memory issues, and this really started to freak me out. I'd kind of grown okay with the once a month deja vu smells, and the pallor, and the fatigue that come and they go. But when I had the memory issues, that's when it really started to freak me out. I mean, I couldn't remember what I couldn't remember. So I started taking log. I would take a data log. I get a spreadsheet and I'd start writing in what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the day. And I was finding that I was probably living within about I'd say maybe about a 3-week window of, if it wasn't a really big thing, I would completely forget it. I mean, I remember it was probably like early December 2011, walking through Fremont, an area where I live, and walking by a restaurant, and turning to my wife and saying, hey, we should go there sometime. And she turns to me and says, we've been there before. And I had absolutely no idea that we'd been to this restaurant before. And that was really, when you have memory issues, it's if you haven't had them, you don't know what it's like. But to not remember things is really tough. I mean, it got to a point once where there was a guy sitting across from me, and I'd worked with him for 4 months. And one of these seizures was coming on. I couldn't remember his name. And I remember he's sitting right across from me. I remember sitting here, and I didn't want him to know. And I didn't want him to ask me any questions. When you go into these seizures, you don't want anyone to think anything's wrong. I had my head done like this, and I had a pencil in my hand. And I'm going through my head. I'm like, what the hell is this guy's name? And I'm going through the alphabet. And I'm like, A, no, it's not an A. It's not a B. And then I get a vision of, I started to piece it together. It's funny, I can't remember his name. I'm not going to say his name, to protect him, but his name was similar to a musician's name, similar to Brian Ferry, and Ferry was his last name. And then once I got that, then I could work it back to his first name. But with that story, I couldn't remember what was right in front of me. And I really was kind of freaking out at that time, and went back to my doctor, and my doctor's like, well, Greg, we missed something. And I'm like, well, great. He's like, we need to go back and relook at everything. So looking back at it, I kind of lost confidence in my doctor altogether. And then that's when, and I don't know why hadn't done it earlier, that's when I just started scouring the internet. YouTube in particular to see if anybody out there had anything like what I had going on. And I was kind of blown away. One night, this was late 2013, there was a YouTube video of this gal who was experiencing this exact same symptoms. And it was just an aha moment. I couldn't believe it. And watching her, she recorded her episodes, and I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. And the way they would start for me was I just kind of get this, I would get a little bit of a deja vu, or I might smell something that's not there. Like I remember a couple times it smelled like sulfur, like somebody lit a match. And I remember talking to people saying, God, do you guys smell like some electrical fire or sulfur or something? And people looking at me like, you're crazy. So I'm smelling things that aren't there. I'm having these intense deja vus. And then I get anxiety and tightness in the chest, extremities would tinkle. You're going to see this in the video. I would turn white, and I couldn't focus. And almost like now I'm kind of stuttering a little bit as I'm kind of rethinking these things. And I would get this, sweat over my head, and then it would go. And these would last maybe about 2 minutes or so. And then they'd pass. And it was during that time that I was like, I'm going to record one of these. I saw this gal, she'd recorded, and like, this is beautiful. This is perfect. I made an appointment with a neurologist in the early of 2014 it would be at this point. So late 2013, just incredible issues with the memory. 2014, I went in there and I told him, I think I've got temporal lobe epilepsy. Right temporal lobe epilepsy, from what I was seeing online about the memory issues, and autonomic issues, and looking back at it, and it was all starting to make sense that my head was telling my heart to stop. These things, these senses, the nausea, my heart turning off, these are all like autonomic responses, and that this epilepsy earthquake, that's going through is kind of like propagating through, and it's triggering memories that are not there. It's triggering smells that are not there. It's giving me the sweats and the whiteness of the face. All of these things are all combined in this seizure. And then in my head, when I think of epilepsy, I think of, kind of the stereotypical thing with someone's kind of like violently doing motion stuff, and it never